As you can see in this video, when I actually open this is the pie chart section. You can actually see I can actually insert any values here. Let's actually insert some random values and display 89, and as you can see I can quickly display a pie chart right here. I can actually change the values anytime easily. Let's change this to 3 and it can actually work correctly as we want. So this is the section for the pie chart. I can also do the same thing for the line graphs. You can actually see a line graph displaying. Now this code is actually written down as lists that I shall demonstrate later, and you can also see we can also display bar charts using Qt Charts inside PySide6 in Python. Alright, let's find out how this works. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Emmanuel Olega. Welcome to my channel, Create Beautiful Things. Alright, so as you've seen in today's video, we shall be learning how to implement Qt Charts inside Python. How do we do this? I'll show it to you in the easiest way possible in today's video. So if you're new to this channel, I encourage you to join the community by subscribing, then hit that notification bell so to get updated every single time I upload a new video. Alright, let's learn something new. Alright, so we open Qt Designer. Then inside here we're going to insert a new template. So we're going to insert a main window template. So click create. Then here we go, here it is. So remove this menu bar and then we're going to remove the status bar. So click remove and then click remove that. Alright, now we're going to set the dimensions. So now the width is going to be set to 470. And then we're going to set the height to 687. Let's just make some edit here. 687, enter. So that's actually a perfect height that I actually want. So now I'm going to insert some text labels. So search for labels. And we're going to insert two labels, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And then duplicate it 3 times. Now here we're actually going to change this text to most popular programming languages. Of course, Python is up there among my favorite. Then we're going to let's actually scale this out a little bit so that you can actually see everything within it. Then some commonly recognized programming languages that frequently appear. So that's going to be the first line of that text. Let's actually stretch this out also a little bit. That frequently appear in lists of top languages include. Alright, so that's going to be it. Now we're going to actually increase the font size of this. So we're going to set it to extra bold 15. So we're going to change the font style to Poppins. Search for Poppins, extra bold, and we're going to set the font size to 15. Right, there we go. Let's make sure everything is visible. Alright. Then here we're just going to increase the font size to 10. We're going to do the same thing here. Font size increase to 10. Let's make sure it's actually positioned properly. Alright, so next I'm going to insert a widget. Search for widgets. Drag this in. There we go. Then we're going to search for push buttons. I'm going to drag 3 of them. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So we just need 3 of them. Alright, then we're going to change the text inside here to pie chart. This shall be line graph. Then make sure it starts with a capital letter. Then this shall be bar chart. Alright, so next we're going to make sure that all of these are horizontally aligned. Horizontally aligned together, more like that. So it's actually looking good. So let's save this file. Now there's a folder I've already created on my desktop that we're going to be making use of. It's a folder called Charts App. Then here there is going to be some icons inside that folder, but now let's save in this folder. So I'm going to call this charts.gui. Alright, so let's first check out that folder. So as you can see in my folder, I now have the charts.ui saved, and inside this folder are different icons that you shall make use of throughout this project, as you can see here. Alright, so we're going to import the resources. We're going to import those icons. So let's first save in that folder, create resources.qrc. Then we're now going to remove this prefix, then add these icons in. So click open, then click OK. So now they're available to us right here under our resources browser. Right, so now here we're going to now add some of the resources. We're going to add icons to this. So now we're going to add the icon for the pie chart. So we're going to add this. Then we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to add that for the line graph. And let's add that for the bar chart. Where is that? So that's it. So now we need them to have different forms. So now we're going to add the normal on. So we're going to have the other different form. So now when it's actually clicked on, we shall make sure this actually becomes white. So we shall select the white version of each one of them. So now the white version of this is here, of the line graph. And the white version of the bar chart, which is here. Then click OK. So now everything is actually looking good. So now next, let's make each one of them clickable. So that's actually very important. Then we shall make all of them auto exclusive. Then by default, we shall leave this pie chart button checked. So it shall be checked by default. And as you can see, that's what happens when it's actually checked in that case. So now we're going to do some styling here under this. Let's select that. So we're going to type in Q widget, curly brackets. Then inside here, we're going to set a background color. So type in background color. Then we're going to set in the coordinates hash E6, E9, E7. Let's see what happens in that case. As you can see, that's going to be the background color now. Now next, we're going to set the border radius of that Q widget to 5 pixels. Click apply. So now let's go to the Q push buttons. Button, curly brackets. Inside here, we're going to set the height to 30 pixels. Border radius to 5 pixels. The next, when a Q push button is checked, something should actually happen. I want to set what actually happens. Say background color shall be set to 0056 D2, and then make sure to close this. You should have the color of the text becoming white and the font weight shall be set to bold. Alright, so let's click apply. Okay, so as you can see, that's what we actually now have by default. So let's actually see what happens in this case. As you can see, it's working. Each one is auto exclusive, and then they actually change to blue every single time they're clicked on. So that's actually working as we want it. Alright, so next we're going to insert a stacked widget. So search for stacked widget. So here it is. Drag that in. Let's make sure it actually fills up this space till even down. Alright, so that's actually looking okay. Now next, we're going to insert some text labels. Let's insert some labels. Duplicate that. I'm going to change the first text to Python and this shall be JavaScript. Alright, duplicate that. Go and set this text to Java. Duplicate that. I'm going to set this to C#. Now next we're going to insert some line edits. I'm going to place those in, so don't worry about their sizes for now. That shall be worked on. So we just need to make sure that there are actually 4 of them. Then we're going to need one more push button. And this push button shall say update PyChart. Alright, so first thing first is we're going to do some alignment. So select all these labels, then we're going to align them horizontally. So that's going to be the first thing. Then we're going to do the same thing here. So align all these also horizontally. So that's going to be very, very key. Then now next we're going to select both of these. So select this. So select both of these. Then we're going to now align them horizontally. So that's going to be very, very key. Alright, so now that we've done that, we're now going to select this. With this selected, select this also, and then we're going to click and create a grid layout. And there we go. So now we have everything laid out properly. So now we're going to set some properties for this button here. So set style sheet. So type in Q push button. We're going to set its background color to #0056D2. Click apply. Set the color of the text to white. Set the border to none. The height to 30 pixels. The font weight to bold. I forgot to actually put this. And then lastly, the border radius to 10 pixels. Let's click apply and see what happens. So that's what we have now. Click OK. So select this entire grid layout and let's actually push it to the top a little bit. Alright, that's now looking good. So next we want to create some space where the chart will actually be displayed. So we're going to look for the graphics view. So we're going to drag that in. So this is how we're going to have the graphics view. So the chart shall be displayed in this space right here. Alright, and now for the case of what we're going to be doing, because we want to make sure to use Qt Charts. So what will happen is we're going to need to promote this graphics view into a Qt Chart view. So how do we do that? So we're going to right click, and we're going to click promote to. So leave this as Q graphics view, and then we're going to promote to a class name Qt Chart view. Alright, so next we're going to click add, and then once we've done that we can now promote. Alright, so now we have it as Qt Chart view, as you can see right here. So it's actually promoted now. So then we can click save. Alright, so next make sure this stacked menu is selected, and then we're now going to work on the different pages. As you can see, we only have page 1 and page 2, so we need to increase and add one more page. Alright, so now we're going to insert a new page after current page, so that we actually have up to page 3. Now we're going to go back to the default page, and then we're going to copy this chart view here. Click Ctrl C. Then we're going to go into page 2, then we're going to click paste. So now make sure it actually fills up all the space, and go to page 3 and then also click paste. Alright, so now we're going to change the names of these graphics views. So this shall be, so now we're going to assume page 3 shall be for this bar chart. So we're going to call this the bar chart underscore view. Then we're going to go into page 2. We're going to call this the line graph view. Then go back to page 1 here. Then we're going to call this the pie chart underscore view. Alright, so next let's give a name to this button. So it shall be the PyChart underscore button. This shall be the line graph underscore button. Then this shall be the bar chart underscore button. Alright, so next we're going to give names to these line edits here. So we're just going to give them simple names. So this one shall be called Python. We shall call this line edit here JavaScript. Let's call this here Java. Then we shall call the fourth one C#. Then click enter. Then let's also give a name to this button here, update underscore chart button. There we go. Alright, so once we're done with that, we can now save this file one more time. Now we can actually switch to the Visual Studio Code. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in the folder of Qt app into our Visual Studio Code. Then once we have it, it should actually load. Now let's scale this up so that it fills the whole screen. Now we're going to add some two different files. So we're going to add the main.py file, and then after that we're now going to add the charts.py. So this shall be the page that shall actually display the data from the index file that we shall actually convert. So now next thing we're going to do is we're going to open the terminal. So go to view and then open the terminal inside here. Then now we're going to type in the words. Now we're going to convert that file charts.ui. So type in PySide6-UIC, then type the file name, and then we're going to convert it to UI charts.py. Then click enter. And there we go, we have it here. Alright, so here we go. So here we have it. Now as you can see, it imports the resources file, which we've actually not yet created. So we're also going to convert the resources file. So how do we do that? We're going to convert that resources.qrc file. So PySide6-rcc, then type in the name of the resources file, resources.qrc, and then type in -o. That's how we type it. Then type in resources underscore rc.py. That shall be the Python file. Then click enter. So now we have it here, as you can see. So that's the resources file. Alright, so that's now what we shall be starting with. So now the next step we shall do is we're going to convert this file here. As you can see, it comes in an encoding that actually needs to be changed. So by default it comes with encoding of UTF-16, as you can see down here, and that may give us some error. So we need to save the encoding to UTF-8, and it's just as simple as that. Now it's at UTF-8. Now it should work correctly. Alright, so now we shall go into the charts.py file and we're going to make some imports. Alright, so now let's make some imports. So from UI charts import. So now we're going to import from here. We're going to import this class UI main window inside here. So make sure to actually type it out correctly, UI main window. Now after that, we're going to make other imports from PySide6.Qt GUI. We're going to make some imports. So we're going to import the import Qt, and then we're also going to import Q icon, which will help us display the logo. So now next we're also going to make some more imports. So from PySide6.Qt widgets, we're going to import Q main window, and then from PySide6 we're going to import the Qt charts. This shall help us to actually display the charts that we're going to work with. Now we're going to create the class. The class shall be called Qt app. Then it's a subclass of Q main window and UI main window. Now inside here we're now creating the init file, the init code. Now then we're going to type in the constructor here, it's the init, and then now we're going to set up the UI file. Right, so now next we're going to now set the Windows title. So this should actually be typed correctly. Set Windows title, we shall call it Qt app. Now next, let's actually set a Windows icon. Alright, so we're going to set up the Windows icon. So now remember that it's inside the folder icons, and then we call the file logo.png. So that's how we actually locate it. Now once we're done with that, we can go into the main.py. Then here we're also going to make some imports. So from PySide6.Qt widgets, we're actually going to import Q application. And then we're also going to need to import from that charts app. We're going to import its main class. So remember, it's called from charts. We're going to import the charty app class, and then we're going to import sys. So now next, you create an instance of the Q application, which we shall call it app, and then we're also going to create an instance of the charty app class. Now next, we're going to set it to show the window, and then we're also going to set it to execute the app. Now let's test our application by trying to run the Python file, and let's see what will happen. Alright, now I see there is an error. Then this must be an error in actually how I actually set up the Windows icon. I'm going to correct that. Alright, let's go back to charts.py to see where I went wrong, and I can see I forgot to type in the word Q icon. So that's very, very important. Then we're going to put in a bracket here. Let's actually remove that, and then let's put it towards the end. So that's actually the error that we made. So let's go back, and then we're going to try this again. Now let's see. So our app is actually loading, and that means it will actually now work correctly. So this is it displaying. Alright, now we can actually close it, and then we can now start creating the different pages. Let's actually first work on the logic on how different pages actually are displayed. Alright, so now let's work on the methods that will actually allow us to switch to the 3 different pages for the 3 different charts that we're actually going to be working on. So now we're going to define the first method. So we're going to call the first method switch to PyChart page. Type in self, and then here we're going to call the stacked widget. And we're going to set the current index, in this case, to 0. So that's the first page, and then we're going to have that for the line chart. So let's change this to line graph. Then we're going to change this one to bar chart. Then set the index here to 1 and here to 2, so that it actually switches to the right page. Now next here, we're now going to connect buttons, the buttons, to switch to the different pages. Alright, so now here we're going to first call the PyChart button. So remember it, so when it's clicked, we're going to connect it. So this is a comma that actually needs to be removed. It's going to connect to switch to PyChart page. Alright, so now next we're going to type in that for the line graph. So self.line graph button. So when it is also clicked, we're going to connect to bracket self dot switch to. That's actually supposed to switch to, so that's a spelling error, but it's going to switch to line graph page, as you can see right there. Now copy that, and we're going to actually paste it to save time. Then we're going to just change the text here to bar chart button. Then we're going to change this to switch to bar chart page. Alright, so once we've done that, we can now run our Python application again to see the changes that we've actually made. So let's run it, and as you can see, when I click on the buttons now, it will actually be switching to the different pages as you wanted. Alright, let's continue from there. Alright, so next step is we're going to actually manage the pie chart. So we're going to create a method to actually update the pie chart. Then inside here, all the functionalities will actually be. So now first thing first is we're actually going to create an instance of Qt Charts. We're going to call it PyCharts. That's the first step. So next we're going to initialize the Py series. So self.py underscore series shall be equal to Qt Charts.qpy series. So this is very, very important. So now we're going to now set how labels are shown. So we're going to set labels to be visible. Then now next we need to set the labels position so that they actually set outside. So now the labels will actually be set outside the slices. So that's very, very important. So this is where you set it from. Alright, so now the next thing is we're going to add slices for the different programming languages. So now let's create a slice for Python, and then now inside here we're actually going to create the slice. So now the slice, we're going to give it a default value of 0, so it shall be called Python, and then the default value shall be 0. That is the first value before we actually insert anything. So for the next one, we shall have for JavaScript, Java, and C#. So each one of them has a default value of 0. So now next we're going to append each of the slices to the Py series. So now we're going to do that for each individual slice, for JavaScript, for Java, and then that for C#. Alright, so next we're going to add the Py series to the chart. So now we're going to add the series. So self.pychart. So remember, that's the pie chart. We're going to add the series, Py series, inside there. Now next, we're now going to set a title for the pie chart. It's going to be called Programming Languages Popularity. And then next, we're actually now going to set the legends. So now we're going to set the legends to actually be visible. Set that to true. And then now next, we're also going to set the alignment of the different legends. So I want them to be actually aligned to the bottom. Alright, so once we've done that, we can now go back to the chart view. So remember the chart view file we had actually created. Then we're going to set the chart, set that pie chart to it. Now next, let's actually work on the logic on the inside. So now the number of Python, we're actually going to pick the value from the QLine edit. So remember we had actually called it Python. So python.text, so we're picking the values from the line edits. So we're going to store them inside a certain variable. So I have that for JavaScript, for Java, and for C#. So change this to the right names of the QLine edits. So we actually are picking the texts from the QLine edits. And then after that, we're going to update the slice value. So now let's first get the total of each one of them. So I have the total for Python, JavaScript, Java, and C#. Now if the total is greater than 0, we want something to happen. So if the total is greater than 0, we're going to set the value of the slice of Python to the number that we actually got from Python, divide by the total. So remember, when we're dealing with a pie chart, we need percentages. So multiply that by 100 to actually get the percent that it actually occupies. Do that for JavaScript, for Java, and for C#. So each one of them has to divide the total, and then we multiply by 100 to get the percentage to see how much of the pie chart they can actually take. So now let's add an except to actually handle those values that are actually not numbers or integers. We shall just leave it empty for now because we are just using this as an example. Alright, let's go back to the top, and now we need to have a way of calling that method. Alright, so how we're going to call it. So we're going to call it by actually clicking on the button. So remember the button that we actually called update chart button, we're actually going to be making use of it right now. So when this button is actually clicked, we're going to connect it to that method. So self.switch, no, it's actually not switch to, self.update. So I need to update the pie chart. So this is it. And then now I want to make sure that the pie chart is actually still displayed by default, irrespective of whether there are values or not. So when the default values are 0, we still want it to display. So that's why we actually call the other second method. Now as you can see, we can see that data is displayed by default. So now let's insert some values in the QLine edits. 56, 56, 70. Alright, let's see. As you can see, our pie chart is actually displaying just as we wanted. So anytime you actually change these values to any value you can think of, you just have to actually just type it there, then click update pie chart, and as you can see, the changes happen instantly, and that's actually what we wanted. So you can see a working pie chart right now with all the different slices in it, and as you can see, we have the label at the top, programming language popularity. You can see the legends, so that shows the key of the different colors representing, showing us which color represents which slice, as you can see below under the pie chart. So this is the functioning one, and this is actually how we do it. So this is it for the pie chart. We're now going to try for the line graph. I hope you can see it's actually working perfectly. Any changes you want will actually show instantly. Alright, let's go back, and now let's handle the next one. Let's go and manage the line graph. Alright, so next I'm going to create a method to actually manage the line graph. So I'm going to call it update line graph. Type in self. Now let's work on the data inside. So now we're going to have an instance of Qt Charts first. So here it is. We shall call it chart. Then we're going to set the title. We're going to call it programming language popularity over time. So now this time we're going to measure it over time. We're going to have years on the x-axis. So now we're going to create a list. So we have a list 2020 to 2024 to represent the different years in this case. So now let's type the Python data also in a list for each individual year. So for 2020, 2021 to 2024. So these were the values. Let's also set that for JavaScript, that for Java. As you can see, this time in this case we've actually chosen to type in the values by default. We're not using a QLine edit. So we could actually have used the QLine edit if we wanted to for each of these, but we'll actually need very many of them because of the different amounts of data. But no worry, we can actually type that in the code and it should actually do the same work. Alright, so once we've done that, we can now create the series, but we need to create the series for each programming language. So now this time we have to create individual ones. So we now have the Python series. We shall make an instance of the QLine series. Now let's start with Python. So Python series, we're going to set the name to Python, and then now we're going to create a loop that actually iterates through the years. Then when it iterates through the years, we're going to actually create instances. We're actually going to append each of the Python data into the Python series that it actually loops through that list. Then we're going to add this series to the chart. Alright, so once we've done that, we can now create one for JavaScript, for Java, and also for C#. So just make sure to actually change the information within. Alright, so we've done it for JavaScript. Alright, change this text to JavaScript. Alright, now this shall be Java. Change each text where there is Python to Java. Then we're going to change this title to Java. Then we're going to also have C# right here. So change that to C#. And then here we're actually going to type the C with the hash sign to represent C#. Alright, so now let's handle how the x-axis and the y-axis are actually displayed. So I'm going to add axis and set the alignment. So now we're creating the axis of x. Now we're going to put it as Q bar category axis. So this is actually going to be displaying in the same way that actually a Q bar looks like, but don't worry about that. So there we're going to append the years, and then we're actually going to add the axis, and we're going to actually align it to the bottom. So we're aligning years to the bottom of that axis. But don't worry, this is still a line graph. So now we're going to handle that for the axis y. So we've also set it. Then now next we're going to need to set the minimum and maximum value for that y-axis that we've actually handled. So we need to make sure that they're actually minimum values. So now inside the minimum, we're going to look for the minimum Python data. So looking for the minimum item in that list of Python data. So we also look for the minimum item in that list of JavaScript data. Look for that in the Java data, and also that for the C# data. So we're determining the minimum value of y. So we also need to find the maximum value of y. So look for the maximum value inside each of these lists also. And then once we have that minimum and maximum value, we shall now set that to the y-axis. So now setting the range. So we're going to start from the minimum value of y to the maximum value of y. So this is actually very necessary. So now next we're going to add that axis. So adding the y-axis also, and we're going to align it towards the left. Usually that's where it's positioned. Then now next we're going to attach the axis to the series. How do we do that? So python.series, we're going to attach this axis. So now we're going to do that for each one of them. So I've attached that for Python to the Python series. I'm going to attach it for the JavaScript series also. Attach those for the Java series. So remember, each one is going to display an individual line graph inside it. So make sure each one of these is actually handled. Then now next we're going to now set the view finally. So line graph view, we've actually set that chart inside. So that's going to be very, very important step. Alright, so now we're going to handle how the chart is going to be displayed. So scroll to the top, and you want to make sure that the chart will actually display by default. So now self dot, just type in update line graph, so the chart will actually just appear every single time we actually open its page. Alright, so there we go. Now we can go back to the main file, and then let's run the Python file again. And this time when I actually click on that page that actually has the line graph, we should actually just see it displaying. Alright, so here it is, the app is opening. It's a little bit slow, but now let's go to line graph, and as you can see, we have it here on display. You can see the different years at the bottom, 2021 to 2024, and as you can see, we have individual line graphs. You can actually see it actually manages the maximum and minimum value really well. You can see the legends at the top, you can see the title, and it's actually working perfectly just as we wanted. Alright, so now we can actually compare it to the values right here to make sure the values actually match. You can see that when you look at the C# data, the values actually match correctly. You can also compare that of Java data, and you can see it also matches. So now it's actually working really well. Alright, so now that we've done that, we can now finally handle that for the bar chart. Alright, so in a lot of ways, that of the bar chart shall actually look like that of the line graph. So we're going to be using the same data as we shall see. So now let's first finish with this method, update bar chart. Type in self, and then inside here, let's actually work on the data on the inside. So now let's actually, I'm going to first start by creating the series, Qt bar series. So now we're actually working with bar charts. So now let's set the name. We're going to call it programming, Python programming popularity over time. So that means we're also going to be handling it in terms of years and all this data. So I want the data to be the same, so just copy that, all the lists. Then we're going to be making use of the same data. Alright, let's scroll to the bottom. Then we're now going to set the different bars. So now we're going to have that for Python. We're going to set it to Python. That's going to be the title. We're also going to have that for JavaScript. We're going to have that for Java. Actually, these are item names for C#. Then we're going to call this C#. This is Java, and this shall be JavaScript. Alright, so now we've actually set the different titles that each of the bars shall actually have. Alright, so now that we've done that, we're now going to iterate through the different lists. Now we're going to iterate the number of times representing the number of years. So we're going to look at the length of years self pass iterate properly. So now to that of the bar of Python, we're actually going to append that Python data from the Python list. Then also going to do that for Java, for JavaScript, and for C# for each of them individually, as you can see right there. Alright, so now we have that for C# also. Alright, so now that we're done with that, we can now call the series, and we're going to append what we actually have here. So we're going to append the Python data, then we're also going to append that for JavaScript, spell that properly. Then we're going to have that for Java and that for C#. Alright, so now we can actually go to the next step. Alright, let's see what's missing. Alright, so now next we're actually going to create an instance of the Qt charts, the bar chart. So let's create an instance of it. I should have done this at the very beginning, but don't worry, we can do it anytime. So we're now going to add this series to it. So we're going to now set its title. The title shall also be programming language popularity over time. Alright, and now next we're actually going to set the animation options. So now we need Qt charts. Type Qt charts, Qt chart dot series animations. Alright, so that's how we're actually going to do it in this case. Alright, so now next we're actually going to work on the axes. Now we're going to work on the axis, x-axis. Then we're going to set the bar category. Alright, so now we're actually going to append the years. So we're going to have the years on the x-axis, and then we need to see how they're actually aligned. Alright, so now we're going to add them, then we're going to align them, align to the bottom. Definitely, those have to be aligned to the bottom. And then we're going to attach the axis. Alright, so now that we're done with that, we can actually now work on the y-axis. Now we're going to type in Qt Charts, Qt value axis, and then we're actually going to add this axis to the chart. Just add it, axis y, then we're going to align it to the left. Alright, definitely that has to be aligned to the left. Then now we're going to also attach this axis y. Alright, so now that we're done with that, we can now call the bar chart view, and we're going to set the chart into it. Alright, so now we need to scroll to the top, then we need to find a way of calling that bar chart. So I want it to actually be displayed by default, so it will just be displayed. So let's actually make a copy of this pie chart, then let's paste it, and let's just change the words to bar chart, so it should actually just display by default. So let's look at it. Let's run the application, and then when I go to bar chart page, you can actually see our bar charts are actually displaying as we wanted. Let's actually compare the values to actually see that they actually match. So let's see that in preview. As you can see, we have the different years, 2020 to 2024. Then you can actually see the different labels. You can actually see that the values actually match. You can actually compare them, and I believe everything is actually working accurately, as you can see. So in short, this is actually how I would actually handle the bar chart, the pie chart, and then the line graph, as you can see right here. So they're actually working properly. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope the video really helped you. If it did, feel free to share it with anyone that you can. And then if you're new to this channel, encourage join the community by subscribing, and then make sure to hit that notification bell so that you get updated every single time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video.